Essentially, these are impulse responses that change dynamically according to the playing conditions and volume. Software amplifier modelling products range from being very detailed models of just one or two amplifiers, such as the Black Star St. James plugins or the Universal Audio Amplifier emulations, plugins and pedals, right up to packages that offer a very large library of amplifiers, speaker cabinets and effects. Familiar examples being Native Instruments' Guitar Rig, Line 6's plug-in version of their Helix, IK Multimedia's Amplitude and Overloud's THU. Amplifier cloning or capturing takes a different approach. Available both in hardware and software, such systems tend to model the amplifier using a machine learning process, usually treating the amp and the loudspeaker as a single system but tested under a range of input conditions. The approach is to mic the amplifier as you would for recording, then feed in a set of special test signals. These cover a range of volumes, frequencies and dynamics, and the usual recording mic is used to pick up the end result from the speaker, so what is captured is the combination of the amplifier, speaker cabinet and microphone for one specific setting of the amplifier. Tone and gain controls are generally provided, but depending on how these are implemented, they may not interact in exactly the same as the tone controls and gain controls within the original amplifier. In fact, in some cases they may behave more like putting an emulated amplifier through a separate equalizer, albeit one modelled on a guitar amp EQ circuit. As a rule, the less that you stray from the original captured sound, the more accurate the end result will be. High-end processors, such as those made by Kemper, and they're used by a lot of professionals, produce very impressive results. But for the more budget-conscious, something like the Tone X1 from IK Multimedia may be more appropriate. It's certainly more affordable, it's very compact, and it produces excellent results. And while you can clone your own amplifier with any of these systems, you'll also find libraries of ready captured amplifiers that you can download and use straight away. In my experience, most model guitar amplifier systems, whether hardware or software, are generally pretty good at reproducing fairly clean sounds. And they also do a good job of heavily overdriven sounds. However, it's in the area between the two that really shows up how good a model is. There's a whole range of just mildly overdriven tones, very touch-sensitive tones, used by country players and blues players, where the playing dynamics has a profound effect on the sound and also on the way that the amplifier actually feels. If the model gets this right, then the sound will be convincing and the playing feel will be good. It'll feel like a real amplifier. But if the model's not quite so good, then it may feel as though you're actually fighting the guitar rather than it helping you to play. So a useful tip for making the less sophisticated guitar modelers feel a little more natural is to feed the guitar into the DAW or modeler via a good quality compressor pedal. You'll probably also need to add some room ambience or reverb, as the amp modelling process itself usually delivers a fairly dry sound. Even if you're one of those players who never uses reverb when playing live, when you hear an amplifier in a real room, there's always some room ambience making a contribution to what you hear. There may be suitable room ambience settings or maybe spring reverb emulation included as part of the product, but if not, you can always use your own pedals or plugins to add a little bit of ambience as needed. This could be anything from a very subtle short room ambience up to a standard plate or spring reverb. While reverb plugins invariably offer a stereo output created from a mono input, it can sometimes help to use a mono reverb. The benefit here is that the reverb will then be panned to the same location as the dry sound. This produces a better defined location within the stereo field. If working in software, don't be afraid to use a separate EQ plugin to fine-tune the sound. A high-cut filter or a high shelving filter can be useful if your chosen overdrive sound is just a little bit too gritty or edgy, while a little lift between 1 and 3 kHz can add some bite to a sound that isn't cutting through as you'd like it to. If the low end is overblown or a little flabby, then a low shelving filter might tame it in a more natural way than a basic low-cut filter. Here's a guitar sound before we apply any EQ. And here we've added a little EQ just to enhance the bite in the mid-range, and we've got a little bit of shelving cut at the top end just to make the highs a little less brittle. While there's plenty of choice in both hardware and software when it comes to amp, speaker and effect modelling, the choice is far more restricted when it comes to modelling the guitar itself. Some software packages may give you settings to fatten up a single coil pickup sound or to thin out the sound of a humbucker, but to model specific guitars requires a pickup that can send a separate signal from each string. The main contenders in this market were the Line 6 Variax, which is now discontinued, and Roland with their VG guitar, which is also discontinued now. Earlier VG pedal systems, which used the split pickup, were produced by Roland, but the latest product to include guitar modelling is the VG 800, which now comes out under the Boss name, which is, of course, the guitar branch of Roland. Variax guitars handled all of their modelling within the guitar, where separate piezo pickups were built into the string saddles, and they produce the necessary source signals. This is a very convenient approach, and a rotary switch used in combination with the pickup switch changed between the sounds. Roland offered a very similar approach with the V guitar, which had a magnetic hex pickup just in front of the bridge. Though the Variax and the V guitar are both discontinued, you'll find plenty of choice on the used market. The Boss VG800 combines guitar modelling with amp modelling, speaker modelling and effect modelling, and it has output settings to compensate for plugging into a guitar amp or a flat response PA system or even DIing. The signal comes from a split pickup, the GK5. 7-string and bass versions are also available. The pickup comes separately from the VG800. A small connector box on the guitar sends the signal in a digital format via a TRS jack cable to the VG800. And the same pickup is also used for the more recent Boss guitar synths, such as the GM800. The necessary pickup can be attached to most electric guitars either permanently or using adhesive pads, in which case the installation is completely reversible. Older instruments compatible with the Roland GK2 and GK3 13-pin connection system can still be used with the addition of an optional adapter box. It's very important to differentiate between guitar modelling and a guitar synthesizer that plays back samples. With guitar modelling, the sound originates from the pickup, and then its harmonic structure is modified to match that of the guitars and pickup settings that it emulates. So why do we need a split pickup at all? Well, apparently the modelling process is more accurate if the string signals are kept separate, but there's a further benefit. Pitch shifting can be applied to individual strings to create alternate tunings, virtual capos, sub-octaves on maybe the lower strings, 12-string emulations and so on. The Variax guitar and the V guitar also offered custom tunings, such as dadgad or 12-string emulations.